Greetings. My name is Brother Dr. Toinik Betu. It's the 6th of August 2024. Now, almost a week ago in Southport, three young girls, Alice, age 9, Elsie, 7, and BB, 6, were murdered with many more injured in a crazed knife attack. Now, after a peaceful vigil that took place to remember and mourn the girls, various conservative groups started organising to exploit their deaths for political gain. Now, if you're wondering why I say conservative, it's because I don't believe the terms far right or extreme right have had any meaning for a long time now. And that's because all the hatred and racism associated with these terms have been normalized and sanitized as so-called anti-illegal immigration rhetoric over the past 14 years. Now, of course, there are many of you who will disagree, but please remember there's no widespread opposition to migration from Ukraine or New Zealand, or America, or even Hong Kong. It's only if it's from people who come from Africa or Asia or the so-called Middle East. So this is clearly a racist policy, and calling it far right is too narrow. But what's all that got to do with the deaths of Alice, Elsie, and BB? How is this linked to immigration? Well, the answer is it's got absolutely nothing to do with their murders. And yet over the past week, there have been race riots in Southport, Hartlepool, Manchester, Liverpool, Bristol, Rotherham, Middlesbrough, Belfast, Hull, London. It just goes on and on and on. And apparently this has all been done in their name, or as they say, stop the boats and to take their country back. Now, these conservative riots have led to attacks on innocent bystanders and the destruction of public buildings like libraries and citizen advice bureaus. Shops have been, vandalized, and police officers have been injured. But the Islamophobic racist riots have also led to mosques being attacked, innocent bystanders attacked because they are African, Asian, or appear Muslim, while whole streets have been terrorized. We've also seen children shouting the P word, all alongside chants of "We want our country back" by some people, I should say, not everyone, and some who may even be our next door neighbors and their children. And this is what's really worrying, because we're hearing them describing themselves as patriots seeking to save our girls from invading barbarians. But again, like I said, none of this has got anything to do with Alice, Elsie, and BB. Now, we know that because a judge removed the legal restrictions protecting the identity of the teen suspects, enabled him to be named. We learned that the 17-year-old was not a migrant or an asylum seeker. He did not arrive on a boat. He was not even a Muslim. Axel was actually a Christian. He was born in Scotland and he's of Rwandan heritage. Nothing to do with migration whatsoever. But that did not stop the firebombing of hotels in Rotherham where asylum seekers were being housed. It did not stop the racist rioters in Middlesbrough from walking through a residential area and smashing the windows of houses and cars belonging to people they felt were not patriots. I'm disgusted to say that we saw parents involving their children in these actions and inciting them to use bricks and stones to also smash the windows of those homes. And there's a Channel 4 news piece which shows the impact on some of those families and the children who were sitting in their front rooms as the bricks went through the window and the glass shattered and came all over their skin. It did not stop the racist rioters from setting up checkpoints. And this is where our skin color was being used as passport, deciding whether we could pass or would be attacked. And this is almost like Nazi time essentially. So they were stopping cars in the middle of the road.
Fuck off! Get them, lads! Get the fuckers! Smash that shit to it! Get that shit done, look! Get fucked off, lads! Watch yourself! Watch yourself!
Well, they weren't asking them anything. They were telling them to go back if they did not look or did not pass their racist tests. Now, what's going on with the authorities? Well, the police have stated that petrol bombs have been used to start fires in hotels. And despite all this, the government will not call this out for what it is. And that's racism, Islamophobia, and of course, Afriphobic.
I won't shy away from calling it what it is. Far-right thuggery.
Now, I suspect this won't change. This is kind of like a game for them. They're acting tough, but they won't call out racism unless they're pushed right to edge, and that normally means that one of us has to die. To the government's credit, however, they are taking some form of action. Now, it's not in a two-tier way as the conspiracy theorists are claiming, but they are preparing the criminal justice system for an influx of racists. But there's a downside to that, you see, because while they're doing this, they're also using the chaos to accelerate the erosion of our digital rights, and they're doing that by increasing facial recognition technology. Now, we must always be careful of what these moments allow authoritarians to do and slip through the back door when we are actually not looking at them really close enough. So let's be clear. The fact is that people on the streets were attacked for being Asian, African, or Muslim. Those that will be disproportionately affected by these new systems, I'm talking about the surveillance, the live facial recognition software that will remain long after this is dissipated, would be those who are Asian, African, or visibly Muslim. But of course, that's another battle for another day. Right now, the government and the police are trying to control this. And yesterday, there was a COBRA meeting, which is what the government calls its high order security meeting. And some people are going to be locked up for violent disorder. I think that's already started. We're seeing these racists, some of them in tears at receiving custodial sentences. Now, what I do want to say, however, is that all of what we're seeing across the UK goes far beyond far-right thuggery, because that's the national narrative, right? This is the official narrative. This is what they're going to try and write in history books. This wasn't a racist riot. This was a far-right thuggery, just kind of like randomly, spontaneously blowing up after a horrendous crime. Well, it's nothing to do with what happened to those 3 young girls. This is about white supremacy. It's just white supremacy without the pointy hoods. It's racism turbocharged by Islamophobia.
Like I said, these young lads that's going out, had probably one too many. They've got involved with the wrong crowd. They're throwing stones, they're damaging stuff. These aren't far-right folks. They're just young idiots that's got carried away.
The white supremacists on the streets that have terrorised us this week are not in it by themselves, because we had to also recognise that the white supremacists in suits have been doing this for years. And this is not caused by social media, because that's the other part of the narrative that we're going to start hearing about over the next few weeks. You're going to see an attempt to frame everything that's taking place in a way that deflects the blame from politicians and from their mainstream media allies, and really in a way that we don't recognise that they are the ones who caused and created this febrile climate. But the reason why I'm making this video is because I just want to say we're watching all of this, and I know of families up and down the country who are petrified, who are frightened to go out. I live in London, and in London, there's enough of us to push back and to fight. But, in parts of the country where we are really, kind of like small in numbers, it's terrifying. And all I can say is that we weren't ready. This is what's really bugging me. They've been doing this for years. They've been ramping up this racist rhetoric for years, and we weren't ready. So let's change that. And I don't mean let's strategize all over the internet, telling everyone our business for clout. I mean, yes, there is a need to speak in public, to communicate, educate, and most important of all, to let those of us who are feeling isolated and vulnerable right now to know that they're not alone. I'm talking right now on the internet. I'm sharing this. I didn't particularly want to do this, but it is important to use these platforms to get out to as many people as possible, just to let you know that you're not going crazy, you're not going insane. This is real. It is 2024. And, we are seeing race riots attacking people of African and Asian heritage. But when I say get ready, I really mean to meet up offline as well as online, using secure platforms, of course. I'm thinking about things like Signal, to break bread together, to reason with each other, talk about our history, talk about our current times, our challenges. Importantly, we also need to heal together. We need to strategize. We need to plan. We need to train. A lot of our young people don't do martial arts. A lot of us don't know how to defend ourselves. We need to organize quietly, and I can't stress that enough. We live in a world where all our business is hanging out on the internet, and we don't need to do that, especially at times like now when we're in real risk of harm. We need to organize quietly in small groups in our homes, community centres, churches, mosques, barbershops, art venues, after a theatre, after plays. There's all different kinds of spaces where we can do this. And don't get distracted or confused as the energy of those who do us harm on the streets starts to die down. You see, the problem is a long-term issue of Afriphobia, Islamophobia, institutional racism, poverty, inequality, and structural violence. And all those problems still remain. Ironically, I suspect that if football had come home, we wouldn't be here. Well, at least not at this moment right now. But we are. And so to that I say, whilst the racist zombies on the streets are venting their frustration and punching down, those working behind closed doors in the corridors of power continue to plan for our demise. They will return. We weren't ready. Let's make sure next time that we are. May the ancestors continue to guide and protect us. Ashe.